Hi everyone, and welcome to the first in a series of Uberstanding's enlightened conversations. So hi Tom, how are you today?
Great. So excited to be starting off this new initiative with you.
Yeah, me too. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Siri, an artist and co-creator of the Tarot deck of Overstanding. And today I'm interviewing Tom Evans, who is the architect of the deck.
Wow, it's so good to have the tables turned. I enjoyed
Yeah,
your
I
interview.
agree. So I have a series of questions for you. Are you ready?
Fantastic. I'm slightly in bated breath now.
So let's begin. First question is let's go back to the beginning. How is it that an ex BBC TV engineer gets involved with the tarot? And explain that to me and to
Oh,
us.
that's a great question. I asked myself that question as well. I think that the tarot is one of these things that most people think of the tarot as a fortune telling deck, and I think if that's all it was, then it'd be absolutely no fascination to me whatsoever. So, for example, I don't think it's a good idea for people to tell other people their fortunes and their future. I think that our futures are for us to define and discover for ourselves. But I learned about the tarot. I was on a course of awakening, about how to awaken ostensibly your psychic powers. I was doing it as a research project. I wasn't interested in necessarily becoming a psychic or anything like that, if I don't even like the word. But this lady introduced me to the tarot, and she I mentioned this elsewhere in the Path to Overstanding course, but I'll just I'll repeat it now just in case people come across this video online. She had the major arcana in a spread, and she offered it upside down, and she offered the cards to each one of us in the group, and then we pulled the card, kept it face down. Then she came round each of us, and asked us to turn the card over and tell her what she thought it was. I picked the Tower, and I gave a really accurate depiction, don't know where it came from, of exactly what the Tower represented. And she said to me at the end, "Have you studied the Tower?" I said, "No." She said, "You've got to read this book." She said, "The Key to the Wisdom of Ages" by Paul Foster Case. So I started reading this book by Paul Foster Case. I started to vibrate as I read the book. And then I found out he had an organization still. He passed away in 1955. Amazing guy. He came to me in a dream as well, which is another story we'll tell another time. And then I started studying with his organization. And what I found was that the tarot isn't a fortune telling deck, but it's actually a set of keys that inform us about who and what we are.
That's really interesting. And that's why I wonder there must be hundreds, if not thousands, of tarot decks out there in the world today. So why another one?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Why another one? Why did I find the tarot? Why did the tarot find me? Why are you interested in creating it so beautifully? What's the attraction of it? But for me, the deck that we're working on has got several extensions, and that's the why, right? So it's got one more major arcana key. Other decks have got that. It's got another suit. Other decks have got that as well. But it's got a framework to it and an architecture which helps us evolve. So the tarot evolves, and we evolve at the same time, which is great. And that's what's great about the tarot. One, you find out about by the conventional tarot, you find out more about who and what you are. And then by extending the tarot, we extend who and what we are.
That's really interesting. And I'm going deeper, I feel, just talking about it. So it's wonderful. But this is not just a deck. What else are you creating, Tom?
Yeah, well, since I started writing books, I wrote the theory in the book. And I always put meditations with it. So when I wrote about a state of consciousness, I'd say, here's a meditation to get you into this state of consciousness. So for the next 23 months, because we work to the moon orbit, I'm going to do 23 guided meditations, one on each of the major arcana keys, which expand a little bit more into them. I've already got 5 meditations about the minor arcana keys, because we've got 5 suits in this deck, not 4. Set of ambient music as well, which has got no voice at all. So you just sink into the that consciousness without any explanation, which takes you in different places. Of course, these conversations, but most importantly, you can't produce a deck of cards without having the book that goes with it. And 15 years ago? No, 13 years ago, I wrote a book called Flavors of Thought, which is about the major arcana. But because Paul Foster Case's book is so complex, it's really hard to get your head around. So I decoded it and contemporized it into this book called Flavors of Thought. Then I wrote another book called Planes of Being about the minor arcana. But I always knew there was a trilogy. So I'm producing the Path to Overstanding book, but I'm doing it by serializing it as an audiobook, very much like Charles Dickens used to serialize his books a few years back now. So yeah, so there's going to be an audiobook, set of meditation, and an album, and then all these conversations. So not only are we going to talk to each other about it, but I've got some really good guests that have got I've got some guests lined up that have got some amazing insights into the tarot and the stuff around it as well.
Wonderful. It's exciting to join you on this journey. And like speaking of music, sinking into each key of levels of being us. That's interesting.
Well, on that note, in Paul Foster Case's book, he says that each card relates to a musical key.
Mm.
And then, so what I'm doing is something I've never done before. I've always made the albums, the two albums I've done before, so that the choice of the music is roughly similar. But I'm starting each of the tracks in a certain key and ending it in the key of the track afterwards.
Ah, clever.
So it should flow. In theory, it should flow together. But the point of doing this, and I mentioned it in the first month, is sometimes we make a decision. Now, I won't know until we get to the 23rd month. Is that a good decision? But the point is, you make a decision, which is instigated by the magician card in the tarot. We call the magician card decision. When you make a decision, then that ripples down the timelines. So I'm hoping people can ripple down this timeline with me and enjoy the flow.
I'm looking forward to that. So that brings me on to the next question, the obvious one. How can people use the tarot deck of Overstanding?
Well, like any tarot deck, what the keys are that they open doors in your mind. So just putting a card in front of you with no explanation, with no theory, that will evoke a certain level of consciousness in you. So every day I have cards out in front of me. I turn a different card up, bring different energies into the world. So that's the simple way of doing it. You just take a card out a day and you do what I call a one card spread. And that will awaken certain nascent aspects of your consciousness. Then you can do other things like putting spreads of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or even more than that together. So you can have different spreads, and the spreads have a geometric form. You can assign temporal characteristics to them. You can put a spread together for a problem to help you with a problem. But I rather reframe that by saying you can put a spread together to help you find the solution.
I agree.
Or more specifically for the solution to find you.
Yeah.
So they're like magic, but like all magic tricks. So when you know the trick's done, it ceases to become magic.
Yeah. So this is basically something new we bring to the tarot by doing this deck.
Not really. That would apply. I could do that with any deck at all. What we can do with this deck is, because we've got another suit of the minor arcana, and we've got another card in the major arcana, and I've done some very clever mapping of the major into the minor, which you don't see necessarily in other teachings. In the 15 years or so I've been studying with the builders of the Adytum, I've not seen this mapping. By putting the master key in there, which is the 23rd arcana, it means we can map the major arcana into the 5 suits of the minor arcana, and it starts to make a bit more sense.
Sounds great. So what benefits does this bring?
Do you know, if you ever feel you're pushing water uphill and life's a bit of a struggle, and you feel like you need a break, then imagine if this deck and its magic would stop that completely and bring you to a charmed, blissful place where only magic turns up in your world.
That would be wonderful.
That is the benefit.
Yeah. That's great to know that all my illustrations are really magic. That's powerful. So,
exactly. Well, we're going to find out in the next conversation about how you invoke your magic as well. Which
yeah. I can't wait to tell you. So sliding into my last question around this, based on the last one, We're exploring the consciousness of the 11th dimension. But what about the dimensions above that?
Indeed. Well, just to explain to everybody, the minor arcana of the conventional tarot explains that we're 9-dimensional spirits having this experience in 3 dimensions, and the 4 suits relate to the 9th, the 7th, the 5th, and the 3rd dimension. And when we got the 5th suit of the Tarot of Understanding, we invoke the 11th dimension. So the 11th dimension sits above the 9th dimension and kind of steers activities for all the souls in the earth plane. So I've never done this before, so I actually don't know necessarily what invoking the 11th dimension is going to be, but it's kind of exciting to find out. But the one practical thing I found is that as soon as you imagine it's true, remember, this is all imaginary. So, but if something imaginary works, then who's to say it's not a good thing to do? So by invoking the 11th dimension, you seem to bring more of this bliss and charm into your life. But I think there's something else going on. I think that the consciousnesses that sit in the higher dimensions want to explore what's possible in the lower dimensions once you incarnate into the lower dimensions. So let's imagine that's what's happened when we bring the 11th dimension down to the earth plane. Bearing in mind, you can have a jolly magical life just by bringing the 9th dimension or the 7th dimension or the 5th dimension to the earth plane. And I've been living that life now since I wrote the book. And anytime you can get involved with the tarot, the magic seems to just turn up in your life. And so many different coincidences have happened since I opened that door with those keys. So I'm excited to find out what would happen with the 11th dimension. My intuition is, or intuition, as Paul Foster Case calls it, is that through the 11th dimension, we'll discover the 13th dimension, the 15th dimension, the 7th dimension, and so on. But right now, I've only got inklings of what they might be about. And I'm just going to enjoy bringing the 11th dimension down and seeing what happens. And also, I think it'll be different for different people as well.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, it's not about creating some sort of cult or anything like that. It's not. This is not a religion. It's beyond. It's beyond religion and aside from religion, and it's not a sort of a following thing or anything like that. It's about just opening and discovering what is possible as spirits having this human experience.
Speaking as the illustrator of the deck, I can say that the deck will be life-changing in many ways, and it has been already. So really nice to talk to you today, and looking forward to the next conversation about this theme and this tarot deck. So thank you for listening, everyone, and have a great day.
And thanks for asking all the right questions in the right order, Siri.
Anytime.